Hey, what's up everyone? In today's video, I'm going to share with you how I made corner bass traps at an affordable price. Ever since I had a class in recording school about room treatment, I knew that one day I would want to get bass traps in the studio. But when I saw the cost of professional bass traps, my jaw dropped. They're super expensive. So I knew, man, I'm gonna have to get creative to try to figure out how I can do this at a low price. Well, a few months ago on Facebook Marketplace, I saw someone was selling 2 cases of Owens Corning 703 insulation boards for a pretty cheap price. Normally, each case of these is around $100, and I think I got both of them for under $100. So that was awesome. So step 1, check kind of the classified listings in your area and see if you can find some of this material for cheap. Aside from that insulation material, what you're going to need for this project is some furring strips. I used like little 1x2 strips, and then you're going to want some sheets of plywood to make the frames. And then I purchased 7 yards of kind of a semi-stretchy opaque fabric at the fabric store. I think it was around $4 or $5 per yard. And that came out to be just enough to cover the 4-foot modular bass traps that I made. Now, if you're watching this video, you've probably done some research about corner bass traps, and you've probably found there's a lot of different methods on how people approach low-end frequency absorption. So instead of getting into whether the super chunk is better than a panel, better than a square, and the sizes and the depths, I'm just going to show you the approach that I took to use all of the materials that I had to keep the cost low and maximize effectiveness in my studio space. So let's take a look. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do for our bass traps is we're gonna build the frames. To start, we're gonna cut out some squares out of some plywood. Now, because I'm a dad, I've got random pieces of wood that's been laying in my garage for years. So, take a piece of plywood, this is about a 1/2 inch thick, and we are cutting 18.5 by 18.5 inch squares. All right, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna trace a line from corner to corner to give us the hypotenuse of our triangles. And that's where our next cut is gonna be. All right, next up, we gotta cut these kind of side support things. I'm using little 1x2 furring strips. Again, random stuff sitting in my garage. So I'm hoping I have enough here, but we need 4-foot pieces for each bass trap that we're making. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is set up one of our bottom triangles with some of our new furring strips that we cut. I'm not too worried about how exact this measurement is. I'll scoot it down to leave some room for the other side because this will all be covered by fabric. But on this side, what I'm gonna do is try to line up this top corner of the furring strip so that it's flush with the angle of this. And that's gonna be the location I screw it in. And then we can trim off the edges when we need to and wrap the fabric around it, and it's gonna be nice and tight. All right, I turned the triangle over. We're doing the same thing on the other side. I'm taking one furring strip, button it up right against here. The other one, I'm just making sure the corner is flush with the hypotenuse of our triangle right here. And I'm just gonna go ahead and screw them in. All right, so we got another triangle on top. We're gonna line this up as best we can and just tack these guys in. I just put one screw in. Again, I don't really think the structure of this part needs to be over-engineered. We're just creating a frame that's gonna hold the foam. And I like to do things cheap. All right, so this is Owens Corning 703, and I bought 2 boxes of it that were used. One box had 6 2-inch pieces in it, and one box had 3 4-inch pieces in it. So what you want to do here, here's a 4-inch piece and a 2-inch piece, is I'm just gonna take some spray adhesive and spray it. And then, so what you want is 6 inches of depth, whether you use a 4-inch piece and a 2-inch piece or 3 of those 2-inch pieces, and I'll show you how we're gonna cut it next. All right, so the next thing we gotta do is draw some 45-degree angles off these corners, because we're gonna cut this in a way so that none of it is wasted. So take a speed square or whatever you got to make a 45-degree angle, and just you want to take it all the way to the corner, and then we're just kind of marking that out. Other side. Boom. That's what we're cutting. All right, so I just clamped a little board on here just as kind of a guide and to hold it together. But I'm just gonna take like a regular saw like this and just try to cut that line as straight as I can all the way down. Again, might be better ways to do this, but this is the cheap and easy route. All right, so the cool thing about using these measurements and 6 inches of foam is that when you cut these pieces and you kind of flip them around to the back, you get your totally full triangle for your bass trap. So you're gonna use all of the material, none of it's gonna be wasted. It's gonna be a full 4 feet tall, and it's gonna be filled with foam all the way throughout. All right, so today I'm gonna try to stretch the fabric for these bass traps. I went to the fabric store, found a pretty cheap, opaque polyester material that is breathable that I thought would work. Kind of the legit fabric that a lot of people use for this is called Guilford of Maine, but it's really, really expensive. So we're using some cheaper fabric today to see how that works. My goal here is to try to stretch it vertically as tight as I can, put one staple in, and then after I get that stretch, go ahead and stretch it horizontally like this to try to make it as tight as possible. Let's see how it goes. All right, so I pulled it as tight as I wanted to and kind of pinned it up with some staples. And then what I did was I cut off the excess. So I'm gonna tuck this flap under and kind of staple it in. And then with this flap, I'm gonna see if I can kind of pinch fold it over, and then I'll run staples along this edge here to tighten up the top. And then similar with this kind of back edge, this loose flap, I already have the tension with these staples, but I'm gonna just fold this down in a straight line and just tack staples down there to just give it kind of a nice clean fold. And again, all of these sides are gonna be against the wall and in the corner, so you're not gonna see a lot of this, but obviously want it to look as tight as possible. So this is kind of a live look at me trying to tuck and staple the very first trap, and this one didn't turn out looking too great, but I got better and better at this as we went. And so sometimes, you just gotta try things out. Well, I hope you liked checking this out, and you'll see here the difference in price between buying them professionally made and doing them yourself. So get out there and don't be afraid to experiment.